Welcome back to another Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the Indo-Pacific to look at a creature that pretty much represents the absolute pinnacle of oceanic aesthetics. I'm talking about the majestic angelfish, or if you want to get technical with marine biologist, Pomacanthus navarchus. But fair warning right up front. What we're looking at today is a tale of extreme contrasts. On one hand, we have this breathtaking, just unparalleled beauty. But on the other hand, we have a set of demanding, almost beastly captive care requirements that will absolutely test the mettle of even the most seasoned aquarists.
So, it really makes you wonder, what exactly hides behind the most beautiful face on the reef? It's a mystery that captivates scientists and hobbyists alike, and the answer is pretty wild. We're talking about radical biological metamorphoses, extreme territoriality, super specialized diets, and a deep ethical crossroads regarding how we actually interact with our oceans.
Okay, let's dive into this whole two-faced beauty concept. To really grasp this species, we've got to start with its aesthetic appeal, because it undergoes one of the most radical physical transformations in the entire animal kingdom.
I mean, just look at this vibrant adult specimen. The colors are almost unbelievable. You've got this brilliant, luminous yellow to orange body, perfectly punctuated by all those intricate little blue dots. And then there is its namesake feature, that iconic electric dark blue girdle that essentially masks its face, covers its chest, and arches right around its back. And notice how those deep, dark blue sections are bordered by that glowing neon blue trim. It is just a visually arresting combination.
But here's the crazy part. That striking coloration, it isn't just for our viewing pleasure. It's actually a stroke of evolutionary genius. When you see this fish hidden in its natural habitat, like tucked away in a complex Papua New Guinea reef, notice how perfectly it blends in among the branching corals and all the darting smaller fish. Researchers point out that human beings find this fish beautiful because of those complex chromatic patterns. But out there, they act as the perfect camouflage within visually fractal reef environments. So what looks like a glowing neon sign in a bare glass aquarium is actually the ultimate invisibility cloak in the dappled light and complex shadows of the wild reef.
All right, let's move beyond the surface level beauty for a second and uncover some hidden biological secrets. Because that vibrant adult we were just admiring, it doesn't start its life looking anything like that. It actually takes an agonizingly slow 2 to 3 years for this fish to morph. The juvenile phase is completely different. It's a dark blue, almost black fish with curved white and light blue stripes. And that's a brilliant evolutionary strategy to reduce competition with adults and, evade predators. That transition to the glowing yellow adult takes years, usually just starting with a faint yellow glow at the center of the dorsal fin that very slowly expands outward.
And the secrets definitely do not stop at their color. These fish rely on sequential protogynous hermaphrodism. I know, it's a mouthful, but basically, it means every single majestic angelfish is actually born female. They organize into these subtlest social hierarchies on the reef, and if the dominant alpha male disappears, the largest, most dynamic female undergoes a radical hormonal transition. She basically reverts her gonads to become a fully functional male within a matter of weeks or months. Because of this process, visual sexual dimorphism is practically non-existent. You literally cannot tell males and females apart just by looking at them.
Now, as we transition from the ocean to the living room, we've got to adopt a much more cautious tone. The reality of bringing a majestic angelfish into a captive environment is intense. Make no mistake, this is not a beginner's pet.
180 gallons, roughly 680 liters. That is the absolute bare minimum tank size required for just a single adult. These guys reach up to 25 centimeters in the wild, and they have a highly active metabolism, so putting them in anything smaller, it's a direct cause of chronic stress, induced stunting, and complete immune system failure. They absolutely require massive tanks with a perfect balance of deep, dark caves to hide out in, alongside wide open channels for aggressive swimming.
So, the absolutely crucial point here is unbreakable stability. The physical-chemical parameters required leave zero margin for error. Ammonia and nitrates, they must be at absolute zero. If you fail to maintain this exact chemistry, you are opening the door to catastrophic health failures. Stressed angelfish are super susceptible to horrific conditions like head and lateral line erosion, or HLLE, where their actual skin begins to pit and erode away. And they're also incredibly vulnerable to deadly pathogens like the megacytovirus, which causes severe systemic damage.
Which brings us to a major debate. And honestly, a point of endless confusion for marine hobbyists trying to design these massive tanks.
because naturally, people want to keep this stunning fish alongside their beautiful, expensive corals. So the question always comes up, is the majestic angelfish actually reef safe?
Well, the brutal technical verdict is no, it is not reef safe. Despite what some mass-market commercial platforms might try to claim, this fish has an innate evolutionary instinct to forage by nipping at live surfaces. Fleshy, large polyp stony corals, your LPS corals, like brain corals or elegance corals, are basically an irresistible buffet to them. The angelfish will constantly nip at them until the coral retracts, stops photosynthesizing, and unfortunately dies from tissue necrosis. Now, they might occasionally ignore hardier, small polyp stony corals if they are perfectly fed, but fundamentally, they are a massive risk to a reef tank.
And speaking of being perfectly fed, you have to understand what it takes to keep them alive. Out in the ocean, more than 50% of their daily caloric intake comes from natural marine sponges and tunicates. In captivity, if you miss these specific elements, it leads straight to starvation or severe tissue erosion. You literally have to feed them a broad-spectrum omnivore diet multiple times a day. We're talking commercial formulas with actual marine sponge matter in them, constant sheets of nori seaweeds, spirulina, and vitamin-enriched mysis shrimp. It's a lot of work.
All of this immense difficulty naturally guides us to the final, and I'd argue most important section of our explainer, the ethical crossroads of acquiring a majestic angelfish. When you're looking to get one of these fish, you're faced with two starkly different realities. On one side, wild-caught specimens face intense stress, and pulling them from the ocean drives wild populations far beyond sustainable limits, which really threatens the delicate balance of the reef ecosystem. And when they are brought into captivity, they often flat-out refuse to eat, leading to massive initial mortality rates. But on the flip side, thanks to the sheer triumphs of modern science, facilities like the Balai Budidaya Laut in Indonesia, Bali Aquarich, and the Biota Group are actually successfully breeding these fish in captivity. Captive-bred specimens offer near 100% survival rates. They're entirely biosecure from oceanic pathogens. They boldly accept commercial diets immediately because, well, it's all they've ever known. And most crucially, they have absolutely zero impact on wild reef populations. So we're going to end this explainer with a question for you to really ponder. Is the beauty of the ocean's most coveted treasure actually worth the true cost of bringing it home? Look, the majestic angelfish is undoubtedly a masterpiece of nature, for sure. But keeping it demands a near-professional level of biological understanding, incredibly deep pockets, and a strong ethical compass. Supporting sustainable aquaculture really seems to be the only way forward if we want to admire this two-faced beauty without destroying the fractal reefs it calls home. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I really hope this deeper dive sparks your curiosity to learn even more about the fascinating world of marine biology and sustainable aquaculture.